One of my first jobs when I was a kid was as a paperboy, delivering papers on my bike around the neighborhood. I loved rolling them up tight and throwing them onto the porch. But more than that, I loved the experience of getting a paycheck at the end of the month, having money that I earned that was mine to spend any way I wanted. I remember after my first month and getting that paycheck, I was so excited. I already knew exactly how I was going to expend it, which is why it was a little bit of disturbance for me when my parents told me that I had to take a certain percentage of that and set it aside for something else. And this bothered me. I thought it was mine, I had earned it. But I understand what my parents were trying to do in terms of teaching me about stewardship, about taking care of the things that were placed into my hands, about thinking about more than just myself and how these resources could be a blessing beyond me. Throughout our stewardship campaign, the hope is that it would be much more than just a fundraising campaign, that it would be a time of reflection on the ways that God has blessed our lives, the ways that God has blessed you, and what we are called to do, what God is inviting us to do with the resources placed into our care. Next week, you'll be receiving your Estimate of Giving card, a mailing that has a reflection about our stewardship campaign, as well as a card to complete and a return to the church. We'll be completing these cards in worship on the 31st. My hope is that when you receive the Estimate of Giving card, you won't begin with just saying, well, what did we do last year, and cutting and pasting from there. My hope is that you would begin with a prayer of, God, how would you like me to respond to the blessings you've given to me, to the goodness you've poured into my life? Actually, it's my hope and the campaign's hope that this is a prayer that's been a part of your daily life throughout our stewardship campaign. Our hope is that you've been able to take time with the devotional or perhaps attend one of the prayer gatherings. On the Estimate of Giving card, you'll see a chart that outlines giving as a percentage of annual income. In the scriptures, in the Old Testament and throughout, it talks about tithing. And tithing was seen as 10% of one's production given back to God as an act of worship. Now, this wasn't given to God because God needed it. It was given because, well, we need it. We need the reminder that all that we possess is God's and we are merely caretakers of it. We need the reminder that entrusting our resources into God's hands is the safest place for them, the place that will create the greatest blessing for others. As you engage in the process of reflecting on how God is calling you to give, I invite you to consider your giving in terms of a percentage of your annual income. Perhaps this is new for you, and so starting off at 10 seems like a big jump. Maybe consider starting at 1% or 2%. Perhaps after thinking about your giving as a percentage of annual income, you'll see that you've been giving at a certain percentage over the course of your past years at Central Union. Maybe God is leading you to change that percentage in some way. However God leads you to respond to that question, that prayer of, God, how would you want me to respond to your goodness in my life? My hope is that you would see your life and our life as a church as rooted in the love of God, and that all that we share, be it our resources, our time, our talents, our strength, that all that we share would be shared from that source of love, and that it would produce blessings far beyond what we could ask or imagine to neighbors near and far. Aloha.